Get to it, shall we? So, today I'm actually going to use some of your classwork problems or some of your homework problems to show you what we're doing. We're not learning anything new today. We are just putting together a few different concepts kind of into one assignment. So, I'm going to go to tonight's homework. So, this is due on Monday by 3 o'clock. And I'm going to open that up. If you have a browser where you could work on that at the same time with me, that would be great. But otherwise, just make sure you're keeping track of the answers that we get because I'm working some of your homework problems for you. So the first few problems, 1 through 4, I believe, yep. 1 through 4 on your classwork, and again, we're going to do one of those for you, but they're all just a review of graphing equations in slope-intercept form, and they're all going to be multiple choice. So your homework for this weekend won't tell you if you're doing it right while you're doing it, but you'll be able to see the problems that you missed when you submit it, and you're allowed to go back. Actually, that's what I want you to do. Go back and get as high of a score as you can. And I know for some of these, there's not necessarily going to be scratch work to show because you kind of can just look at it and tell. So please know I get that too. Okay, so I'm going to do one that is just like the first, or I'm going to do number 1, actually. It's not even just like. So it's already in slope-intercept form for us, and I'm going to use the fact that this one is multiple choice to my advantage. So remember that this is this is the slope of the line, and then that is going to be your y-intercept. So the first thing I'm going to do is look to see whether or not they all have the right y-intercept. So remember that means that they hit the y-axis at -5. So I'm going to zoom in here and take a look at those first to see. So if I zoom in on option number 1, I can see that that does hit the y-axis at -5. So that one's still a possibility. Option number 2 also hits the y-intercept at -5. And if I look at option 3, I see the same thing, and option 4. So the y-intercept doesn't help me because they all have the right y-intercept. So now I'm going to use the slope. So I notice, first off, that that is a positive slope. It's a positive 2/3. So that means, oh, shoot. Okay. Hey, guys, a couple people just texted me and said I'm kind of cutting out, so I'm going to try to connect and then reconnect. So hang on to see if I can get a better better signal. So hang tight a second, guys.
For what?
No, not you. I'm talking to my students. Not you guys. Okay, y'all, hang on. I'm going to try to hang up and then reconnect. What paper?
It has the temperatures on it.
Oh, I don't know. Bro didn't get rid of it or anything, did he?
I don't know. What? Why is it Oreo?
All right, let's try this again. Somebody,
I don't like that.
hey guys, somebody text me real quick and let me know if I'm still cutting out. That would be great. Hopefully I've got a better signal this time. Technology is awesome. Okay. Shut up. Sorry, not you guys, my daughter. Okay, perfect. Thank you for that text that I sound better. All right, so I'm not sure exactly what you guys missed there, so I'm going to kind of go back from scratch and to make sure that you guys got that. So this first equation, and 1 through 4 are all like this. It is going to be in slope-intercept form. So what I said before is I was using the multiple choice to look to see if they had the right y-intercept. And unfortunately, all of them have the right y-intercept because they all hit the y-axis at -5. So that doesn't help me to eliminate any of the answers at this point. However, now I'm going to look at that slope, and I see that that slope is a positive 2/3. And hopefully, this is not brand new information to us. We know that a positive slope means it's going to be increasing. So I can tell just by looking at a couple of these that they're not going to be the right ones. For example, option number 1 is decreasing. So I know that option 1 is not going to be the correct answer. And I can see that option 2 is also decreasing. So that one's not going to be correct either. So I really just need to focus my attention on option 2 and option 4. So those are the two I'm going to zoom in on. And let's see if we can figure out what that slope is. So I'm going to look at option number 2 just because that happens to be the one at the top here. And you're going to notice, so the coordinates are given to me. I'm just going to choose 2 of those coordinates. And I need to draw my imaginary right triangle. And I basically just need to count, right? So I know that, because this one's pretty straightforward. So I know that my rise, so remember your rise is up and down. If I count it, it's 1, 2, 3. So that's my rise. And I know my run, my horizontal distance is 1 and 2. So remember the way that slope works. You do your rise over your run. So that means that 3 will be on top and 2 will be on the bottom. So we're not so if I look at the slope we were actually looking for, we're looking for 2/3, not 3/2. So option 2 is upside down. It's not the correct slope. So that means it's kind of got to be option number 4 unless we've made some kind of mistake, but it's always good to double check yourself just to make sure. So I am going to connect those 2 coordinates. I'm going to look at my rise, which is 1, 2. I'm going to look at my run, which is 1, 2, 3. And there's my slope of 2/3 like I need it to be. So that is going to be option 4. So I know for sure that number 1 on my homework or on your homework, you're going to select option number 4. And that's going to be the right one. Numbers 2, 3, and 4 are all exactly like that. I also gave you like a little review video in here in case you need it. And then, of course, I'm posting this Google Meet too, so you guys can refer to that. But that will get you through numbers 1 through 4. Now, starting with number 5, it's not in slope-intercept form anymore, is it? It's in point-slope form. And the reason that we learned but we don't know how to graph in point-slope form. We only know how to graph in slope-intercept. So that's why we've spent the last couple of days learning how to convert into slope-intercept form. So I am going to do that kind of over here to the side. As you might recall, we did this, 2 days ago. We want to get it to look like this. Y equals mx plus b, so that way we can figure out which graph matches it. So the first thing we need to do is ditch these parentheses. We got to get those parentheses out of there because slope-intercept form doesn't have parentheses. And you're going to recall that the way you're going to want to do that is to take the slope, or that number outside of the parentheses, and you're going to distribute. You're going to multiply. So -3/5 times x is just going to be -3/5x. I showed you how to use your calculator. You just use parentheses to put -3/3 divided by 5 in your calculator. So you'll do -3/5 times -5, and if you do that correctly, you're going to see that you get plus 3. I'm going to bring the rest of the equation over because there's nothing for me to do with that yet. So far I have y minus 1, and I distributed the 3/5 to get rid of those parentheses just like we did the other day. And so the last thing we need to do is get that y, where did that go? hold up. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. So the last thing that we need to do is get that y isolated. The y needs to be by itself. So that means we need to get rid of this -1 that's hanging out with the y. And how do you get rid of a -1? You do that with a +1. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. You guys already know that. So this is going to cancel. That's going to leave me with y equals -3/5 x, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. So now I have it in slope-intercept form like I need it to be. And I'm going to start by looking to see which graph matches that y-intercept. Let's see if we can narrow it down like that. So we're looking for a graph that hits the y-axis at +4. If I look at option 1, I see that it hits the y-intercept at a -4, not +4 up here where we need it to be. So that means that option number 1 is a no-go. Option number 2 does hit the y-axis at 4, so that's a contender. Option 3, I'm not sure I'm going to actually zoom in just a little bit so that you can see that here, because this one's a little hard to see probably on my screen. So if I zoom in, oh, it's not doing it. Darn it. Okay, well, hopefully I'll kind of mark it for you. Option number 3, it kind of looks like it's at the 4, and you'll be able to see it on your version at home too. It's really hitting right in between the 4 and the 5. It's not sitting right on the 4, so that's not the correct one either. And finally, option number 4 hits the y-intercept down there at -4 instead of at +4. So option number 2 is the only one that has the correct y-intercept. So that has to be the right one. But let's just double check and make sure, because it's always good to double check, and make sure it's got the right slope. Remember, we're looking for a slope because it was -3/5 x. So I've got these two coordinates. I'm going to draw my imaginary right triangle. My rise, if I zoom in a little bit, is 1, 2, and 3. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yep, so that slope is indeed 3/5, and it's a -3/5, just like we need it to be because it's decreasing. So for all those reasons, option number 2 is the correct answer for problem number 5 on your homework. So I'm going to mark that one. So numbers 6, 7, and 8 are just like that one that we just did. So you just need to distribute to get rid of the parentheses and then isolate the y. And then the very last type you'll have is the type that we did yesterday, where it's in standard form, and we don't know how to graph in standard form either. We haven't gotten to that yet. So we're going to have to take this equation and we're going to have to convert it into slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b, because that one we know how to graph. So the first thing I notice is that the x is on the wrong side of the equal sign. It needs to be over there so that it's in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to rewrite this over here, 5x plus 2y equals 10. Okay, so how do you get rid of a 5x? Of course, you do that with a minus 5x. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. This one is going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with the 2y that I'm going to bring down. Yesterday, we talked about how you can't combine a 10 and a 5x because they're not like terms. So we're just going to rewrite it into a regular subtraction problem. And because slope-intercept form, the x comes first, that's why we're going to write the x first. So it's negative 5x plus 10. So we're almost finished. The very last step is that we need to get the y isolated. And don't do it this way. There are some people who were trying to do this yesterday. We're not going to get rid of that 2 with a negative 2, okay, because this isn't addition that we're trying to get rid of. That 2 is sitting next to the y, which means multiplication. You cancel out multiplication by doing division, and you have to divide everything by 2. So if this cancels, that's going to leave me with the y by itself. And then this part right here becomes the slope, which is a negative 5 over 2x. And then the y-intercept is going to be 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So now that we've got it in slope-intercept form, let me clear all this out of the way so that we can see which one is going to match. So I'm going to see if I can eliminate possibilities by looking at the y-intercept first, because that's just the easiest one for me. And if I zoom in on option 1, it does have a y-intercept of 5, so that's a contender. Option number 2 has a y-intercept at 2, so that's not going to be the right one. Option number 3 has a y-intercept not at positive 5, but at negative 5. So that one's not going to work either. And last but not least, option 4 has a y-intercept at negative 2. So that can't be it either. Kind of has to be option 1, but it's always a good idea to check and make sure it has the right slope. So we want it to have a negative 5 over 2 slope. So I'm going to zoom in on here, make sure that it's got the right slope. So I've got my 2 coordinates. I'm going to make myself an imaginary right triangle. My rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My run is 1, 2, and so my rise is 5, my run is 2. And it's decreasing, which means it's going to be a negative 5 over 2. So it has the correct slope as well. So the rest of them are just going to be, so number 9 is just like number 10, 11, and 12. So you'll convert those and then see which one matches the graph. And then 13 and 14 are going to be bonus questions. So I'm not going to give you any more about that. I just want you to take your best educated guess. It's not a big deal if you don't get those correct. So if that is exactly all you need to have for your homework for tonight or this weekend, you know, however you want to think about it. And please, please, please text me if you get stuck with anything. And again, this isn't one where you need to upload scratch work, because some of these you can just kind of look at them and tell. So I'm okay with you just submitting the Google form for this one today. There's a few of you guys that don't forget. I'm going to let you off the hook a little early today unless you guys have any questions. But I do need a few of you guys to stay put because I am going to, there's a few of you guys, hopefully you know who you are. I can check, I'll actually, if you're one of those people, I'm going to send you a little thumbs up real quick so that you know you're one of those people that needs to wait around for that makeup session that you need to have. So if you got like a little thumbs up from me right this second, you're not quite off the hook. We're going to go over one of the makeup sets from the other day. But the rest of you guys can take off, but please text me if you've got any questions.